Life emerges, and one day it ends. In between, time passes. Over time, minds and bodies change. Along life's journey, there is a time to play, a time to learn, and a time to breed. A time to share life's lessons. Those who reach old age are fortunate. They have overcome every danger. But inevitably, they must say goodbye. Aging, it's a passage through time, and no two paths are the same. Cold, famine, injury, predators, disease. Any of these challenges may lead to the end. The fight for life is a constant struggle, and sooner or later, the battle will be lost. Others are waiting in the wings to take their place. Sometimes, in a fleeting moment, everything changes, and life is lost. Death is inevitable for every living thing. It may come early or late, but death's certainty is ever present. Evolution has shaped the longevity of each species. If an animal is lucky to survive long enough, certain clues may indicate the end is near. Many mysteries still surround the body's breakdown over time. This is one reason scientists are interested in investigating different end-of-life pathways. There may be some lessons to be learned from the pre-programmed deaths of sockeye salmon. After several years in the Pacific Ocean, mature sockeye travel upriver, swimming against the current, often returning to the same place where they were hatched. Millions of salmon respond to the instinct to embark on this journey from seas to rivers and lakes. At journey's end, death awaits, a spectacular mass death. These rivers have seen salmon make this journey for thousands of years, yet aspects of the journey remain a mystery. To complete the last few kilometers of their life, salmon bodies undergo a radical transformation. Their skin turns red, and the males develop a strange hooked nose or kype as a weapon for fighting. This transformative last act has only one aim: reproduction. Males fight with their hooked snouts in a battle for dominance, showing off their strength to choosy females. Sockeye salmon are an example of a species that breeds only once in their lifetime, so the stakes are high. Year after year, scientist Tom Quinn carefully watches the salmon run on the river.
The combination of the arduous migration upstream, the physically taxing process of building nests and reproducing causes high mortality rates on the adults. They put all of their energy into eggs, and those have a high probability of surviving to replace the population. People ask me how it could have evolved, and I say, 500 million salmon can't be wrong. It seems to be working very, very well for them, even though as humans it seems like an implausible thing to do.
Males arrive before females and stake out a territory. Before laying her eggs, a female carefully selects a nest spot. Scoping out her surroundings, a female accounts for the speed of the current, water depth, and temperature. With her favorite spot chosen, she seizes the moment. Using her tail, she digs a pit. Here she will lay and bury thousands of eggs that males are eager to fertilize. The future generation of sockeye will never see its parents. The developing embryos are buried just beneath the gravel. Until the last bits of energy are sapped from their bodies, females protect their nests. All the while, their bodies are declining. Soon, the river will reek of death, and all will die at roughly the same time. It's coordinated chaos.
The deterioration of their body is just astonishingly rapid. I've seen it for decades, over and over again, and yet it's still hard for me to believe that within 1, 2, 3 weeks, these animals that are so vigorous will inevitably die.
Since arriving in fresh water, these salmon have stopped eating. Their reserves are exhausted. Their immune system shuts down, fungal infections develop, and wounds do not heal anymore. Eventually, the salmon are too weak to carry on. But their death brings new life to the entire ecosystem. Their carcasses nourish bears, birds, and insects. Leftovers feed the soil with vital nutrients that rejuvenate plants and trees.
So the density of bears, the size of bears, the abundance and size of fishes like rainbow trout and dollyvarden are all related to the abundance of salmon. Literally, if you turned off the salmon, the entire ecosystem would change.
Next spring, as tiny fish emerge from the gravel, the cycle begins again. Of the female's thousands of fertilized eggs, perhaps 10% have survived the winter. The new generation will spend a year or more in their natal waters before embarking on their parents' journey, in reverse, heading to the sea. On this next quest, only a fraction will reach their destination. After 2 years at sea, maybe a dozen of these now fully grown salmon will return to the place that they hatched. In the meantime, life lies ahead. For some animals, the forest provides everything they need: food, shelter, and a place to find a mate. Growing old in the wild means skillfully navigating the dangers of life. Only a lucky few will reach old age. Here in the boreal forest, the king of this place is the moose. Pierre Vaillancourt, nicknamed Pierre the Wolf, knows this forest intimately.
Pour moi, l'orignal, c'est une bête incroyable. L'orignal est adapté à vivre dans une nature très rude. C'est un cervidé qui est extraordinaire, fort, à la fois puissant et en même temps capable d'être discret, de marcher à pas d'orignal sans se faire entendre dans la mousse. Et pour moi, de me retrouver à la fin septembre, début octobre, dans la période du rut, et d'avoir la chance de faire des périodes d'affût au lever, au coucher du jour, c'est quelque chose d'extraordinaire.
In the wild, moose can live to be 20 years old, but few survive this long. Here, hunting is the main cause of mortality. Weighing up to 700 kilograms, moose are a popular target. Today, hunting is less for food and more for sport. But in the Montmorency forest, there is no hunting allowed. Wolves don't follow these rules. They prey on the young and weak moose. Periodically, moose are counted by helicopter. Their locations and numbers are mapped.
Lorsque j'ai commencé mon travail de guide naturaliste, je guidais des safaris d'observation de l'orignal. Pour moi, ça, c'est un trésor. C'est une carte au trésor. C'est plus qu'une carte de pirate, parce que le trésor vivant, il est là. C'est une femelle orignale avec son veau qui a réussi à passer au travers de l'hiver. C'est un gros mâle géniteur ici que j'appelle Julien, qui est le dominant du secteur, qui, lui, passe l'hiver tout seul. D'après moi, il a un sale caractère. C'est son frère que j'ai baptisé Bob.
To understand the life history of these moose, from birth to death, Pierre patrols the forest.
C'est une autre indication que probablement les loups et les orignaux sont pas loin parce que les corbeaux vont se nourrir sur les carcasses d'orignaux que les loups vont avoir tués. Fait que moi, je suis certain, sans que ça soit prouvé scientifiquement, là, les corbeaux sont dans les airs, repèrent les orignaux, crient, attirent les loups font une prédation sur l'orignal, les corbeaux en profitent après.
If the ravens are truly spies for the wolves, the moose cannot escape this aerial surveillance. Eventually, they must flee or face the wolves. In order to survive, moose must contend not only with wolves, but also with harsh winters. To get through the winter when food is scarce, moose need a layer of fat as insurance. As snow carpets the ground, it becomes more difficult and tiring to get around. Moose need to find food and shelter. Their resting place is called a yard.
Il faut comprendre qu'à la forêt Montmorency, sur le massif des Laurentides, il tombe 6 mètres de neige en moyenne par hiver. L'orignal doit être fort pour passer à travers l'hiver. Et les plus petits veaux qui viennent au monde tard ont moins de chances de survivre. Cette orignale-là, je la connais. Martine et son jeune veau sont en excellente santé. Ils ont une alimentation de qualité. On peut le voir par rapport à la qualité du poil. Un beau poil, brillant. Le jeune veau, c'était un veau de très, très, très bonne grosseur. Lui aussi avec un bon pourcentage de gras. Alors, 2 orignaux en parfaite santé qui vont sûrement avoir une longue vie si les loups ne les trouvent pas.
Having seen Martine mate with Julien in the fall, Pierre suspects she may be pregnant. If so, this spring, a baby moose will see its first dawn. The newborn is welcomed amidst the winter's last snow. Its first steps show its naive curiosity. Caution will come later as it builds life experience. During the winter, thanks in part to the dead moose, the ravens have survived and life goes on.
L'orignal au Québec, il y a beaucoup de contraintes pour sa survie. Il y a entre 13 000 et 20 000 orignaux de déclarés abattus à la chasse à chaque automne au Québec. La population d'orignal se porte tout de même très bien. On parle d'environ 100 à 125 000 orignaux sur le territoire forestier québécois. Lui a eu la chance de passer au travers des loups, a eu la chance de passer au travers des ours, qui sont des prédateurs efficaces. C'est un animal qui demande quand même à être respecté, à être laissé tranquille en hiver pour pas qu'il dépense d'énergie inutilement.
For a moose, this male has reached a wise old age. In the mild temperatures of another summer, he grazes slowly in the waters, seizing the moment one season at a time. For thousands of years, a small white whale has inhabited the waters of the mighty St. Lawrence River. Here, far away from its Arctic cousins, it has evolved in isolation, writing its own unique story. At the beginning of the 20th century, there were some 10,000 belugas. Today, there are about 900. Heavily hunted until 1979, its population has still not recovered. Though no longer extensively hunted, the small surviving population has been under assault from another threat: toxins in the water. Though water quality has considerably improved since attention was first drawn to this issue, the St. Lawrence beluga is now an endangered species.
Alors, l'histoire des Belugas, c'est en quelque sorte l'histoire du Saint-Laurent du dernier siècle. Quand on se préoccupe de l'état de santé d'un Beluga, on se préoccupe finalement de l'état de santé du Saint-Laurent au cours des dernières décennies. Alors, le Beluga est en quelque sorte un livre ouvert sur le Saint-Laurent. Son histoire, c'est celle du Saint-Laurent.
Biologist Robert Michaud has accumulated decades of knowledge about these belugas.
En bas de la barre de courant pour l'instant. Il y avait deux groupes près de la barre de courant, on a un autre groupe juste devant nous.
By better understanding belugas, he aims to better protect them.
J'ai commencé à étudier les belugas alors qu'on pensait que les belugas vivaient seulement une trentaine d'années. Puis on sait aujourd'hui que les belugas vivent 2 fois plus longtemps qu'on le croyait autrefois. On croyait qu'ils vivaient entre 30 et 40 ans. Ils vivent en fait entre 60 et 80 ans. Évidemment, il y a des animaux que je connais depuis une trentaine d'années. Je les ai connus tout petits. Ils ont commencé à avoir des jeunes seulement 12-15 ans après le début de notre étude. Et maintenant, on commence à voir leurs petits-enfants. On connaît des grands-mères maintenant. Et ça jette un regard assez particulier sur notre travail. Leur vie est aussi longue que notre espérance de carrière comme biologiste. Alors, je ne verrai probablement pas la fin de l'histoire.
Because they are pure white, it is difficult to tell most belugas apart, but Michaud can identify a small proportion of males and females from their unique marks and scars. One individual seen recently is female DL-169, also known as Yogi.
Ses premières documentations photos remontent à 1977. En 1977, c'était déjà un adulte bien blanc. Donc, admettons qu'elle avait 12 ans en 1976, ce qui lui donne autour de 50 ans cette année.
Yogi is no longer breeding, but still stays near other females and young.
Alors, ça soulève toutes sortes de belles questions pour nous, à savoir qu'est-ce qu'elle fait, c'est quoi son rôle, si elle ne produit pas, pourquoi on vit aussi vieux. Le but de la vie devrait être se reproduire, mais quand on ne se reproduit pas, pourquoi on vit encore? Est-ce qu'on a un rôle à jouer? Je n'ai pas les réponses à ces questions-là, évidemment, mais je pense que les Belugas pourraient nous le raconter.
Robert Michaud's work has helped us to better understand individual differences between belugas in where they live, who they associate with, and how they communicate. These talkative, whistling whales have been nicknamed the canaries of the sea, though we can only guess at what they are saying. The researchers are curious, and so are the Belugas. Often it's the whales that appear to be studying the researchers.
On dirait une véritable garderie. 6 ou 7, des tout jeunes, des animaux de l'âge de 3 à 5 ans qui se tiennent ensemble. On a seulement quelques adultes avec eux. Leur principale occupation, ces jeunes, c'est d'être curieux. Mais quand ils expriment cette curiosité-là envers nous,
It's the young whales that are of greatest concern to Robert. In recent years, there has been a high mortality of pregnant mothers and their newborns. Losing the young jeopardizes the future of the whole population. And an adult loss means a loss of wisdom that helps the young whales navigate their world. To this researcher, it's clear that the health of the beluga reflects the health of the river. The whales he studies are slowly disappearing, and he's worried about the future.
Le déclin récent de la population demeure inexpliqué pour l'instant. On a plusieurs hypothèses. Le réchauffement de l'eau, la disparition de la glace, les nouveaux contaminants qui ont augmenté très rapidement dans les années 90 pourraient avoir un effet important sur la santé des femelles qui pourrait entraîner et peut-être expliquer une partie des mortalités des nouveau-nés. Et notre autre hypothèse, c'est le dérangement. À partir de 2010, on a commencé à noter plus de co-occurrence entre les belugas et les petits bateaux, les plaisanciers. Et ça pourrait entraîner des complications lors de la naissance. Alors, les saisons où il fait très beau, où il y a beaucoup de navigation de plaisance, c'est des saisons où on a enregistré beaucoup de mortalité chez les nouveau-nés.
Will these whales, which have inhabited these waters for 10,000 years, be gone in just a few decades? Their fate is in our hands.
J'ai peine à imaginer la disparition des belugas du Saint-Laurent. En fait, ce serait un échec lamentable de nos efforts des dernières décennies pour sauver cette population-là. Si on arrive à sauver les belugas du Saint-Laurent, c'est qu'on aura réussi à assainir ce milieu. C'est qu'on aura fait les compromis nécessaires pour mieux partager ce milieu extraordinaire-là avec d'autres êtres vivants.
In nature, some enemies are invisible, but powerful. Tiny disease-causing organisms can take down even the biggest and strongest. This giraffe seems to have succumbed to a skin virus. Its death is a boon to hungry scavengers. Scavengers have evolved an unusual resistance to the challenges of consuming rotten meat. Nothing is wasted here. Bones are often the only evidence left behind of past life. Life may be long or short, but inevitably it comes to an end. The end for some marks the beginning for others. Land animals face the threat of predators, parasites, disease, and a harsh climate. But one animal has largely bypassed these threats and somehow has even developed a resistance to cancer. Digging out a life almost entirely underground, this creature almost never sees the light of day. At the University of Rochester, Vera Gorbanova has reconstructed an underground city rarely seen in the wild by building a plexiglass tunnel system in her laboratory. It looks much like a rat, but its underground habits are more reminiscent of the mole. Folded, papery, translucent skin and long, skinny front teeth give the mole rat its strange appearance. In the wild, it is only found in East Africa.
And then this animal, you can see the social behavior of animals come in one chamber, and they like to be like skin-to-skin contact with each other.
In mole rat colonies, the only female that reproduces is the queen. Her offspring are sired by a harem of males. It is a lifestyle well known in eusocial insects like bees, ants, and termites. But the mole rat is unique among mammals, the only one to have adopted this way of living. This small mammal is a member of the rodent family, yet compared to the mouse, it has a life expectancy 10 times longer. Mole rats can live to be 30 years old. Their unusual longevity makes them a source of scientific fascination. By studying long-lived animals, the hope is we can identify mechanisms that prevent the diseases typically associated with aging.
Well, we've been interested for a long time in the ability of cells to repair DNA damage. So more recently, we found that cells from longer-lived species can repair DNA damage more efficiently, and we also found some of the mechanisms responsible for this difference.
It's an exciting discovery, but it doesn't end there. The naked mole rat is also exceptionally resistant to cancer.
And naked mole rats are very resistant to cancer. Cancer is very rare in these animals, and there were even experiments where people tried to induce cancer with carcinogens, and again they saw that naked mole rats are very resistant.
Why can this peculiar animal largely resist cancer's uncontrollable cell growth? Vera Gorbanova and her team have discovered that the mole rat cells produce a special molecule, a polysaccharide that inhibits tumor formation.
But what's really exciting is that because human body also produces the same substance, so it's not something foreign. And this way we could hope to transfer this mechanism directly imported from naked mole rats and bringing it to humans.
This scientist's dream? Perhaps humans can borrow the cancer-resisting solution evolved by the mole rat.
So long life is always tied to health and longer years of healthy life. And that's exactly what we want to achieve here for humans. We don't want to prolong sickness, we want to prolong health. We want to prolong productive years of life where people can be active, they will be healthy, and they can just enjoy life for longer.
In the big picture of evolution, the mole rat has forged its own separate path. Can we learn from the secrets of this strange subterranean mammal? We can only hope. Therapies for age-related illnesses might be found in places we least expect them, in organisms very different from us. Life on our planet comes in many forms. Some of the living have no heart, no eyes, and no legs, but live long lives. Trees germinate, grow, breathe, and reproduce. And one day, they fall. This forest may not look unusual, but compared with most, its form is unique. All of the trees in this forest are aspen, but not only that, they are genetically identical. They are clones. Each trunk is an offshoot of the same individual. This one superorganism is named Pando. Paul Rogers has known Pando for a long time.
The Pando clone is a one genetically identical being. All these stems you see behind me are all genetically identical and therefore thought to be the largest living thing on Earth.
Scientists estimate the combined weight of these tree clones at 6,000 tons.
It's interesting that whenever this did originate, this stand, it came from a seed about the size of a pepper grain, and now it's this massive thing that's 43 hectares in size.
Pando may hold another record. Some scientists have speculated that Pando may be one of the oldest living things in the world, with its origin dating back 80,000 years. Since it began life as a tiny seed, this Goliath has overcome a series of obstacles: lightning, fire, frost, and herbivores. It has been continuously regenerating itself for thousands of years. One of the secrets of its longevity is how it shares resources between trunks. Each tree is connected to the matrix through its roots. In spite of its strength through the ages, Pando is now weakening. This giant is slowly dying.
Pando is currently deteriorating. A lot of the older trees are dying. They're laying on the ground. We've referred to those as bones, but they're coming down faster and faster. They're getting to an age where they die rather quickly. The unusual part is that there's no younger trees to replace them. There's no babies, there's no teenagers, no middle age. Imagine if you were in a small town in which everybody in that town was a senior citizen. It would not be a sustainable community for very long. You need that age diversity in a human population, in animal and plant populations, and certainly within this clone to survive long term. Otherwise, we could have things all crash and die here within a matter of a decade or two, which is in the middle of what's happening right now.
In recent years, there have been fewer and fewer young shoots. The problem is increased grazing by herbivores. Since the disappearance of wolves from the area, deer have become superabundant. The livestock that grazes here adds additional pressure. The clone can no longer replenish itself with young shoots. Lack of diversity in tree height shows that the younger generation is declining. It's been unable to get a foothold for many years.
This is an organism that's been here for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and suddenly it's collapsing on our watch. And that points the finger directly back at us as humans and how this area has been managed. I think what I find fascinating in studying this clone is that all we need to do is give it a little breathing room and it can regenerate, and that's a good, healthy thing. The different looks of Pando in different seasons is fun to look at. Different colors, different moods, you might say, of this giant clone. And to be in here among it, all these stems is sort of humbling as a scientist.
Pando is a special form of life. If it disappears, its uniqueness vanishes forever. Clinging on to life for months or even years, death is now just around the corner. As this bear enters its den for winter, will it reemerge to see another spring? Fear of death is firmly anchored in the human psyche. But what about other creatures? Does the looming specter of death also cross the minds of animals? Do some animals choose a place to die? It's difficult to know if animals have a sense of their impending mortality. Very few species display an obvious reaction to the death of their own. In some cultures, the crow is a herald of catastrophe, a symbol of misfortune. In this urban park in Seattle, a researcher is conducting an experiment on this crow. Biologist Kaylee Swift is taking a close look at how crows react to death. So that the experimental conditions are repeatable, a mask is essential. It means that each researcher's face looks the same to the crows.
Essentially, how we designed this experiment is we would identify a territorial pair of adult crows. We would start feeding them for 3 days. That gave us a baseline of how quickly they would come down to the food. And then on the 4th day, we would introduce our dangerous stimulus.
One of the essential research tools? The stuffed carcass of a dead crow. A nearby crow spots the corpse. Its reaction is immediate. First one, and then a whole flock begin to sound the alarm.
Essentially what happens when a crow discovers a dead crow is that bird will produce what we call a scold call. It's an alarm response. And what that does is that scolding results in the recruitment of other birds to the area, potentially a large mob. And together, those birds will continue making those alarm vocalizations. They'll fly around the area.
Each time the experiment is repeated, it provokes the same response. Now conditioned to see a masked human as a harbinger of death, the mask alone sparks the same reaction. Are the crows scared? Sad? Angry? Does their reaction suggest a form of mourning? The experiment continues in the laboratory. Using a scanner, John Marsloff, director of the research team, wants to visualize the reaction and understand its origin inside the bird's brain. What's discovered is that the brain regions activated are those associated with recognizing danger. This means it's possible that these birds feel emotions.
And when we look at these animals' brains, when we think about how important emotion is to our own success as human beings, there's no reason that these animals couldn't be expressing those same capabilities in terms of grief is important, love is important. All of these things are, I think, are really crucial to our success. And so there's no reason why they wouldn't also be crucial in the success of something like a crow. But whether or not we can definitively say whether or not these animals are expressing those things, you know, until we develop the technology where I can just ask them and they can give me an answer, I don't know that we'll ever know for sure.
As far as we can tell, most animals don't seem to have any sense of their impending death. An awareness of death requires a specialized awareness of life. And that requires self-awareness. Does our nearest genetic relative have an awareness of death? Primatologists are exploring this question. Are they aware of their own mortality? Catherine Hobater is an expert on chimpanzees. Her daily task? Documenting their social interactions and decoding their communication. Over the years, she has developed a bond with this chimp community. They have come to trust her. By closely following their social lives, she is trying to understand their motivations.
Chimps are drama queens, so there's turmoil and high emotions over all kinds of things. You know, they're going to get super excited about different fig trees coming in like we've seen today. It kind of sounds like something amazing is happening, and it's just they found some new food this morning. Equally, some of the really high drama things will be when a new baby is introduced to the community. So females will go away for a couple of days and come back with a new baby. We kind of always keep our fingers crossed because that can go well, but if the tensions are really high, then sometimes you can get infanticide or the baby might be hurt. Your heart tells you just want to go and intervene and help and do something, and we can't. You know, we have to be scientists and we have to be observers and just record and just kind of watch what happens, and that's a part of their natural behavior. That's what chimpanzees do. So we need to try to understand that and find out the reasons why that happens. But it's a tough day in the forest, and you certainly see, I mean, it's tough on us, but it's tough on the chimps too. So when a female's lost her baby like that, she's gonna probably go away, be on her own for a little while. She'll just be very much kind of closed off. You know, if she was a human, we would say she was depressed. She won't engage socially, she won't groom so much. She just has a little quiet time to kind of pick herself back up again. It's really hard to tell, but from their behavior, it would seem they definitely experience something like depression.
While we try not to project our human feelings onto animals, it's also presumptuous to assume that they do not feel anything that resembles emotions. The roots of mourning may indeed lie here, in the depths of the jungle. The African savanna is the land of elephants. The GB family plods the age-old trail worn by their ancestors. In elephants, over time, the knowledge gained from experience is passed on from mother to daughter. Elephants have excellent memories. They even remember their dead. Along the path, they come across some elephant remains. They stop. A few years ago, an elephant died here. She was an elephant the researchers called Graka. Graka was a member of the GB family. Now, whenever the GB family passes this spot along the path, each elephant takes the time to feel what remains of the dead elephant, her trunk, her skull, her bones. In elephants, the importance of family, combined with a long life expectancy, may hint at an explanation for this memory of the deceased. To live a long time, one must remember. Time on Earth varies enormously. For some, life is long. For others, it is fleeting. Each species has taken its own path. So much changes with age. As time marches on, it affects our social rank, our ability to reproduce, our wisdom, and our bonds with others. We are just beginning to grasp how these changes through time take place in nature. Every organism has its own way of navigating life's path. Each species adds its own value to Earth's biodiversity. Aging is continuous and begins the moment we are born. As we age, our paths may be diverse, but our stories all have the same ending. The end of the precious journey we call life.